In this last video this week, I'm going to talk about choices you have in the media you use to communicate. Being whole requires that you stay connected with the people who matter to you. And as someone living in the 21st century, your choice of the means by which you do this is not always immediately obvious, with all the tools now available for communicating in so many different ways. I did an informal survey with a group of students last year, and we came up with 17 different media choices, each with its own advantages and disadvantages that are available to people today. So it pays to give some thought to how you apply the incredibly powerful devices that are now at your disposal. Think about the media you use to communicate with your stakeholders to see if you can discern patterns and discover opportunities for you to use different forms of communication more effectively. The basic types are in-person or face-to-face, F2F, virtual real-time, where you shift location but not time, such as telephone or Skype, and virtual asynchronous, where you shift both time and place, such as by email or by what you and I are doing right now as you watch this communication from me that I recorded sometime in the past. As you think about your stakeholders, you can estimate the percentages that you use the different forms of communication for each stakeholder or for each domain, as I've illustrated here. And here are some useful questions for you to then consider. What patterns do you see in your use of communication media? What are the consequences of your use of different forms of communication for your ability to align domains and achieve your performance goals in each domain? What opportunities can you create to more effectively use different forms of communication? Now, face-to-face generally helps to build trust, whereas virtual gives you flexibility because you can shift time and place. Conventional wisdom suggests that face-to-face communication is generally best, but some people realize in doing this analysis that they need to better use virtual means of communication in order to stay connected with their most important people. Others have found that face-to-face is not always a panacea for good, clear connection. For example, Edward, a former student who was a procurement manager, he'd recently married and noticed that although he spent a good deal of face-to-face time with his wife and his parents, it was still in his home domain which he needed to work on first in order to improve his key relationships. So there's no universal solution for which communication media is most apt. It's useful to think about what works best with each stakeholder, taking their preferences into consideration as much as you can. You'll be smarter about how to connect with them as a result of your thinking about this. And in fact, this is a topic you might want to bring up in your forthcoming stakeholder dialogues. How you connect, what media you use, or perhaps just in some of them. And it's an area on which you might want to experiment when we get to that phase in our course, which is coming up soon. All right, you've now completed the third week's lectures in Better Leader, Richer Life. We've been exploring the idea of being whole, how you enhance integrity by making the domains fit together, by seeing the value in respecting all domains of the whole person. We saw why it's important to be aware of where there's compatibility and conflict among stakeholder expectations and to see your life as a system of relationships that you can influence as a leader. And we reviewed the array of choices available to you for communicating with your most important people and how to be mindful when making these choices. Congratulations! You've learned how to identify your key stakeholders, understand performance expectations, see your life as a system you can change, and think about the media you use. We are done with the Week 3 lecture. Your assignment for this week is to write about what we've just covered. Identify your stakeholders and your mutual expectations, assess compatibility and conflict among them, and see your life as a system you can change. This is another big step forward you're making as we progress further in developing a deeper grasp of the possibilities for your growth as a leader in the real world of your real life. I hope you find these assignments to be rewarding, even if they are challenging, and pushing you a bit outside of your comfort zone. You'll also have a chance to provide feedback to your classmates on their assignment 2 about clarifying what's important, and review the feedback your classmates gave you on your assignment 1. Next week, I'll help you to prepare for your dialogues with key stakeholders. You'll learn to take what I call the leadership leap, to see yourself as others see you, to look at yourself through the hearts and minds of the people in your inner circle. If you have the Total Leadership book, you can read Chapter 5 and start to think about the exercises in that chapter. But don't start your dialogues until you watch next week's lectures. I'll be discussing with you the best practices that I've observed for making sure that these dialogues go as well for you as you want them to. So, after you've decided who you want to speak to, try to schedule times to talk with them sometime after you've had a chance to watch next week's lectures. It's best to wait to have your stakeholder dialogues until after you review what I have to say about how to make these stakeholder dialogues really work. And the more of these you can do, the better. To get the full effect of a cross-domain point of view on your life, ideally, as I said, you'll conduct at least 2 of these conversations with stakeholders at work or at school, at least 2 at home or in your family, and at least 2 in your community. Do the best you can. You're about to start on another transformative step in becoming a better leader, having a richer life. Again, I hope you're enjoying the ride so far and are looking forward, as I am, to the road ahead. See you next week.